Fun. Hi, everybody. Can somebody comment just to make sure that you can hear me, you can see me, that everything's working? I would appreciate it. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Thank you all for being here, first and foremost. I'm super excited to give you this presentation. Hi, everybody, today about how to take your events career to the next level. My name is Alyssa Perna, and I am a corporate events tutor for QC Event School, and I also work a full-time job. I'll tell you very slightly a little bit about that, but you can find my profile under the tutor area on QC Event School's website. So before we get started, I just wanted to let you know about, give you a sneak peek about a Black Friday early promotion that QC is offering. So if you enroll in one of QC's foundation courses, plus one advanced course, which you'll receive 50% off of that, you will actually get a specialization course for free. So QC is here to help. Somebody will be commenting and answering your questions throughout this webinar. Please ask questions and comment. We'll collect those, and I'll be able to save some time at the end of this webinar to answer your questions and help address anything. And another thing about this Black Friday offer is they will also offer $400 off of tuition when you pay in full at the time of enrollment, on top of the free course offer. So there is literally no better time if you've been thinking about taking QC Event School's courses, there's no better time to enroll. So I hope you enjoy the promo. But without further ado, you are all here to learn more about how to take your corporate events career or your events career in general to the next level. So I did put a poll up. I'm going to pull it up. I think it's important. I loved watching people slowly trickle in and answer the poll. If you can answer the poll, it would be helpful. I'm asking the question, what is the biggest challenge that you found starting your career in event planning? And I sort of picked out some of the top key things that I remember facing when I was starting out my career in events. So please let me know what you think and where your struggles are. I'm happy to help you, but my intention is to cover each and every one of those questions while we go through the presentation today. So let's dive on in. I'm going to go ahead and get up close with you guys, get up close and personal, and I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you. So if you bear with me for a moment, I just need to share my screen with you all. Okay, let's scoot up as well. So you're all here to learn about how to take your career to the next level and market yourself for growth. And I'm happy to give you some tips on at least how I found some success along the way. So first and foremost, I told you already a tiny bit about me. I'm obviously a tutor for QC Event School. I love working with them. They offer great quality courses. And I work full-time for a company called Smithers out of Akron, Ohio. And I'm head of production and operations for the Americas with them. So we handle conferences and events. We do about 30 annually across the US and Latin America. So let's talk a little bit about the agenda today. We're going to start out by talking about the basics. So what does that mean? That means your foundation. So we're going to talk about your foundation and the basics, what may seem obvious but may not be to some of you. Next, we'll talk, once you have your foundation built, we'll talk a bit about your online presence and how you're representing yourself online. We'll get into the importance of maintaining and keeping really strong industry relationships and how to go about seeking opportunities. And that first opportunity, I know how hard it is, believe me, to get that first job in events. And I can even tell you my experience getting that first job in events. Going about applying for jobs and some tips and tricks to set yourself apart, and then some really key next steps that you could take. So let's dive into the basics. So the basics means it's all about you. This is your foundation. So what's on paper? So by that I mean, I want you to ask yourself these questions. So feel free to comment. Yeah, woohoo Akron. Hi Kaylee, I just saw that. So I want to ask you to ask comments in this area. When is the last time that you updated your resume? Just be honest and plop it in there for me. When's the last time you updated your resume? So I'll touch on that a little bit. So you should, what I do every 5-6 months at the most is I go circle back to my resume and I update it. This weekend, good job, Andrea. So what I would recommend going back, because the more you learn and the more you advance just in general and in your career, you should be going back to your resume and figure out a way to say it better. So I want to give you some examples of what I mean about that. So for example, maybe on your resume, it says something like, I managed 80 facility rentals for the venue that I worked at. There's a better way to say that. And I want you to use an acronym. It's actually a SMART goal acronym. A lot of companies use SMART goals to evaluate how an employee is doing in their career. So what does SMART stand for? It stands for it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So everything that's on your resume, I want you to think about it from a SMART goal perspective. So back to my example. So you have on your resume, I managed 80 facility rentals for the venue I work at. Let's say it better. Better way to say that would be, I contracted and executed over 80 annual facility rentals, generating over $250,000 in revenue and exceeding sales goals by 10% in 2018. It's a little wordy, but we hit every piece of the SMART goal acronym and said it a lot better. So I have another example for you to try to really get you to wrap your head around that. And one thing that I see a lot of people missing with using the SMART goal mentality is hitting each and every piece of the acronym, SMART. Make sure that you get every part of that. So here's another example. So on your resume right now, it says, I planned and provided on-site management of incentive travel programs, conventions, and meetings for the company. That's a decent way to say it, but you can definitely say it better than that. So instead, I would suggest saying something like this. I lead the request for property process, including negotiating contracts and terms for 20 projects, representing 4 diverse divisions of the company portfolio. So I'm not kidding when I say I go back every 4 to 6 months and I look at my resume and I pick it apart and I update little pieces and parts of it to just make it sound that much better. Another thing that you should do when you're looking at your resume and your foundation of who you are and how you're going to represent yourself is to use power words. So what do I mean by power words? If you're in a leadership position or maybe you've managed a project, then I would use words like lead, I led, I managed, I drive revenue, I demonstrate, I direct, I motivate. You want to use those really strong power words. And a great tool that I frequently use when I have a word, but it's not quite right, is I will go to thesaurus.com and I will type in the word I'm thinking about and get a ton of other ideas to make it sound better. So if you're starting out, like many of you are in your career, maybe you don't have a ton of like leadership or project management experiences yet. So I would say there's still power words you can use. So for example, I provided advice or direction. I coordinated. I oversaw an aspect of an event, for example. So I hope that helps. But the SMART goal, SMART acronym is super helpful and a great way to think critically about how you're presenting yourself online. So I hope that helps. Let's move on to your online presence. So you have, let's say, good job to everybody, first of all, pretty much everybody who updated their resume recently. Keep it up and go back. Don't just wait 2 years, because if you, let's say you updated your resume and a year later, you've probably done a bunch of other duties and projects, and then the perfect job pops up that you want to apply to, you should have that resume rocking and rolling and ready to go. You don't want to have to put the pressure on yourself to go home and have to work on your resume for 4 hours to make it sound perfect. Have that thing ready to rock and roll. So that's why I'm encouraging you to set up your foundation now, and that's how you're going to present yourself publicly after that. So you have this great resume set up now, and you have your foundation ready to roll. So let's talk about your online presence. And again, this is all about you continued. So let's talk about social media. My first question is, are you represented on all of the major social media platforms? So that could be your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Many of you probably are familiar with a lot of the mainstream social media places. If you have the skills, do you have a website set up for yourself to help you self-promote? And second to that, is your information up to date? So again, it goes back to your foundation and that resume that you have improved. When you're online, there are other things that you can do to stay engaged with your audience and your network. And also, if you want to kind of present yourself as a thought leader or an industry leader, there are really great things you can do to promote yourself, which I would say is crafting compelling content. So I wouldn't recommend going and just posting every day for the sake of posting, because quite frankly, that gets old and people may start unfollowing you. I would be very strategic with what you're posting and what you're sharing online. So I would say always think about crafting compelling content, craft compelling messages. So for example, let's say maybe you want to ask some questions. So I would position something like, does anybody have recommendations on a great venue to go to in Chicago that could host 100 people? If you sincerely have that question, and I'm sure people will dive in and jump in and comment. What are your top 3 challenges getting into wedding planning? What should I prepare myself for? Those are really compelling, kind of engaging questions that a lot of people, if you put yourself in the shoes of somebody with that experience, will probably feel inclined to answer or engage with you on. So other ways to share compelling content is to, let's say you went to a really super cool event or you worked on a little project and you're proud of it, share a video or share a photo about what you did and tag the right people in it and tag the event in it. Something really visually appealing, because it's not only going to showcase your skills and your experience, but it's going to set you apart from the rest of the audience. So just compelling content. Just don't put junk online. Make sure you really think about what your message is saying online. Okay, another important thing is just don't expect everybody to comment and engage with you directly. You should be actively engaged online on social media to keep up with your network and stay involved and keep in contact with everybody. So it's important to comment. Again, make sure you're contributing valuable, compelling content, and ask questions. So the other key important thing, which may be obvious to some of you, but when I was younger, I had to learn this myself, that you need to keep it professional at all times. So if you are trying to position yourself as a thought leader or in a professional in the industry, you really need to consider about how you're appearing when people search for you and find you on social media online. So if you've got some stuff that you should probably delete or keep it as a private, only you can see it photo album, I highly suggest doing that. There's no reason why you need to delete it, just get it off of the public network. Find your niche. Let's say that you are kind of getting into nonprofit and you become an expert at doing fundraiser walks and runs. Find your niche and use it, and make sure you tap into your skills to showcase who you are online through sharing compelling content. And stay engaged. Biggest thing of all is stay engaged. Don't just have an online presence. You need to keep engaged like we talked about previously. So now let's talk and shift a little bit to relationships. It's all about them. Now it's not about you anymore. You've got your foundation and you've got yourself set up on social media. So relationships. It's so important to not only create industry relationships or even beyond your industry, just relationships, whether it's professional or personal, but create and maintain those relationships. So there's a lot of different ways if you're kind of struggling and starting out in your events career to create relationships. One of the first ways would be to figure out whatever city you're in or whatever area you're closest to, join professional organizations and attend industry events. So maybe there is a local ILEA that you can join and get involved with. Find out where it is, go to one of their open house events and introduce yourself to everybody. Figure out how you can get involved, volunteer for some of the projects. Attend any industry events that could help get your face and your name out there and your abilities out there. If you're shy and not super outgoing, believe it or not, you might think I am by doing this on camera, but when I get into a room where I have to meet people and talk to people, I honestly get really uncomfortable. I'm a total introvert when it comes to that kind of stuff. So you have to put yourself out there as hard as it is and practice introducing yourself. So maybe you practice with your husband, your boyfriend, your mom, whoever it is. Find somebody and practice. Think about a couple opener questions that will help you break the ice and make yourself more comfortable to put yourself out there when you're in a social situation where you're trying to build relationships. Link up on social media. This is key. So I've built my social media network as if I meet somebody at an event or whatever the case may be, in passing, quickly met with them for a minute, we shook their hand, I exchanged business cards, or I remember their name, I will look them up on LinkedIn after that. And LinkedIn is a huge, if you're not on there, you should be on LinkedIn and set up your profile, because that is really the best professional networking site, I would say, out there. So link up on social media, stay connected. And if you really feel a good connection with them or think you could help each other out in some capacity, send them a personalized note afterwards. Tell them, hey, something as simple as, hey, it was great to meet you at such and such event on Friday. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope we cross paths again, or if you need help with this or that. Send them just a quick couple sentences to let them know that meeting them was important and valuable to you. If you are starting out in your career or you're looking to kind of take your career to that next level, there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't hesitate to reach out to somebody that you've met or that you admire and ask them for an informational interview. If they're local, you might want to send them a note and just say, hey, I'd love to take you out for a cup of coffee or to treat you to lunch and just learn about your career and kind of pick your brain and get some advice on what I can do to someday, do what you're doing. Or ask for a phone call, ask for 10 minutes of their time and make sure you're prepared for that call to ask them questions, because we've all started somewhere. And believe it or not, I found that when you ask somebody for help or advice, they're usually more than willing to put themselves out there for you and give you that advice. And stay in touch. So if you do find people that are super valuable and you found a good relationship with them, it's easy to just lose touch with them over the years. And then you might even forget how you met in 4 or 5 years. So make sure you stay in touch and that you keep the relationship going. It takes 2 to keep it going, but shoot them a note. Hey, it's the holiday time. Just want to wish you happy holidays and hope that you're doing well. So now let's talk about seeking opportunities. And I'm going to ask you guys, what else could you be doing to put yourself out there and climb that ladder? The first thing that you could do, especially if you have more limited experience and you're trying to really build your resume to get that first event job, you could totally volunteer. You could volunteer your skills and expertise. On a board, for example, or at a nonprofit organization. Not only will that give you exposure to key contacts, but it will help showcase your skills and your abilities. And it'll help position you as an industry expert as well, because you're going to have exposure to these people. And as long as you follow through with what you're promising and committing to with these kind of volunteer opportunities, then great. It's just only showing how capable you are of being successful in a role. So another thing you could do is if you have some experience and maybe you want to take it to the next level, offer to tutor or mentor somebody more junior. It's so rewarding, first and foremost. And it also helps, again, position you as more of an industry expert, a little bit more senior level. And to that note, you never know someday who might become your colleague, your equal, or your boss. So it's interesting the way life works, and it's only going to help you to help other people out as well. So also, let's Next on the list is save job descriptions that you aspire to have someday. This is something that I've always done. If I find a job that I'm like, wow, that sounds awesome, I really would love to have that job, but I am not even close to having the skills and experience that I need for it, I save that. And then I work towards getting those skills and experience over the years. It's long and slow. You've got to be patient. Get those skills and experience that you want to get that job that you envision someday. So another thing you should do is seek and pursue skills that set you apart from the competition. So let's say, for example, you've got all the logistics down, but you really want a role with a corporation, but it has a lot of budget management and financial pieces to it, but you don't have that skill or experience. If you're in a position, you could always ask your supervisor or somebody close to you, like, hey, can you get me exposed to this? Can I lead a project? Can you give me this work that I'll do with no expectations tied to it? I just simply want to learn how to budget or how to work with numbers a little bit better or manage a budget. So there's things you can do to put yourself out there to get those skills and experiences, especially if you do have a full-time, even a part-time role that will help you build your resume. So another thing you can do is just simply put yourself out there and get involved. Again, go to those networking events and put yourself out there, because I have a theory. My theory and my little phrase that I always go to is I'll always ask. So if I'm thinking about something and I'm hesitant or I'm doubting myself, I'll always force myself to ask, because what's the worst thing that somebody could say? No. And then what? You move on and you try again. You get up and you try again. So always ask, because what's the worst they could say? And it's probably just no, right? So go for it. Go for it. Let's keep moving along here, guys. Next, we're going to talk about applying for jobs, which I think a lot of you may be kind of on your way doing or ready to do. Number one, prepare. So customize your cover letter. So there, for example, when I've looked for jobs, I have customized maybe 1 or 2 cover letters. I've kind of put a template and really worked hard on these cover letters that are very specific to a type of job that I would like to make a move into. So I have like 2 core letters that I sort of keep, and then I would take one of those cover letters if I find a really great opportunity, and I customize that based off of the job description that I'm actually applying to. So while I have my kind of base cover letter set up, I don't just send that in blanket. I go in and I customize a few key sentences, and I put in some key terms and key words that I found in that particular job description to set myself apart and make myself more, I guess, marketable and to be looked at and considered for the position. You always want to be specific to the role and the company. I would also say that I've noticed that a lot of websites these days are asking you maybe just for a resume and giving you the option to add a cover letter or additional documentation. No matter what, if you want to set yourself apart, go above and beyond. Be extremely polished and careful with everything that you're writing and putting in there. Make sure that resume is spot on and ready to rock and roll. And make sure that you go above and beyond. If there's only an option to give a cover letter, and make sure you put that cover letter in there, because it will set you apart. You also want to make sure that, especially if you're kind of getting into that first step of having the initial phone call with HR, that you have done your due diligence and researched the organization, and make sure that you're prepared and ready to say, like, hey, this is what your company does. This is why I'm extremely interested in working for you. Here's how I think I could help you. Here's how I understand the role. Is that correct? And also, when the companies will also pitch it back to you, and they'll say, okay, what questions do you have for me? Probably the worst thing you could do at that time is come with no questions. So prepare for real content, good content questions that you have about the job. They want to know that you're engaged and you're interested in learning more about them as much as they're interested in learning more about you. So another great thing was when you send in your resume or cover letter, or if you're on LinkedIn, then you might see who posted the job. So it could be an HR person, it could be the hiring manager. So if you actually see who posted the job, you should definitely send out a follow-up little message on LinkedIn, and something as simple as, I saw this opportunity, I already submitted my cover letter and resume, I have 10 years of experience, and da 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 da. I hope to hear from you soon. Let me know if you can connect next week about this opportunity. Something along those lines, short, sweet, and simple, 4 or 5 sentences that shows that you took just that little extra step to go above and beyond and reach out to the person who posted the job. And I did a similar presentation to this at IMEX, which is a big event planner conference in Las Vegas. And I actually said just that to somebody who was at the conference. And the next morning they found me and they came up to me, I'm not joking, and they said, hey, I applied for a job last night and I sent a note to the job poster like you said, and they wrote back to me immediately, and I have a call with them like next week. And she's like, thank you so much. So really, those little extra above and beyond things could set you apart. Sometimes people won't answer you when you do that. That's going to happen as well, but sometimes they will. So the other thing that I would suggest is to interview, even when you aren't too serious or maybe you're hesitant about proceeding with a role that you've applied to, because if you interview, practice makes perfect. Or if you're a little on the fence about the job, maybe you go to the interview and you know for sure you don't want to proceed with the job, or you go to the interview and you come back and go, wow, I didn't expect that, but I really want this job now. And again, practice makes perfect. So the more that you interview, the more prepared you'll be for an interview with a job that you really, really want. And you can learn, and you won't be nervous if you haven't, you'll be less nervous if you haven't interviewed in 4 or 5 years. So now what? We're getting close to the end of the presentation now. So thanks all for listening to me so far. So now what can you do? I'm just going to give you some do's and don'ts here. So don't keep doing the same old thing. If you've been doing the same old thing for a year and you're like, I just can't get that first job, I don't know what I'm doing, don't keep doing the same old thing. Change it up. It's not working. Don't wait for somebody else to come and open the door for you. You need to go open the door for yourself. You are your biggest advocate, and remember that. Have confidence in yourself. When you're down, shake it off. If you need to take a couple days to recover, fine, but get back up and go for it. Don't let rejection get you down. I have been rejected many times, and you know what? You get knocked down, you recover, you get back up, and you keep trying it again. And here's some things that you should do. Boldly say, I'm here. So put yourself out there. Get out of your comfort zone. Even if you're doing most of this stuff, if you learn 1 or 2 new things, try it. Try to do something else and boldly come out and advocate for yourself. Seek advice and ask for help. So if you're struggling, maybe, and you don't know why, maybe have some informational interviews, or ask to meet with somebody that you admire, or you want to kind of follow their career path, and ask them for some help and advice, and just ask them to be honest and give you some constructive criticism. And then again, as I said earlier, always ask, because what's the worst that can happen? They say no, and then what? You move on, right? Try again. So always ask. So let's just recap some of the things that we learned today, and then we'll dive into some questions. So number 1, if you haven't updated your resume recently, update that resume with compelling content. Go back every 4 to 6 months and just check it through and make sure, say it better if there's a way to say it better. Write some killer cover letters with really strong introduction sentences that will make somebody want to keep reading more about you. Get yourself on all major social media platforms and stay engaged. Number 1, make sure you have a profile online, and number 2, engage with your audience. Next, make sure to create and maintain important relationships. Not only create them, but keep in touch, because you never know when you might be able to help somebody out or they can help you out. Seek opportunities to position yourself as an industry expert. Volunteering for, if you have the time, do a little bit of volunteering. You can also volunteer and do stuff digitally. I have some kids. It's hard for me to kind of go physically places after work at night or on the weekends, but I've volunteered to do things that I can do remotely from home to help. It's only going to position yourself as more of an expert. Get those skills and experiences that are going to set you apart from your competition. So if maybe you're bilingual or you're learning another language, that could be just the edge you need to get that job and beat your competition. Take those extra steps when you're applying for jobs and opportunities. Make sure that you send a note if you know who the job poster is. Put the effort into researching the company, and ask questions and seek advice. I will be 90 years old if I live that long plus and still be asking for advice, because I do believe you can, no matter what, always learn something from somebody, no matter what. And most importantly, believe in yourself. So you are your biggest fan, your biggest advocate. So just put yourself out there and believe in yourself. Don't let yourself get let down if you struggle. So that wraps up my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would be more than happy to answer questions. I can see the comment feed, so I don't know if QC, you have some questions coming in that you want. Oh, I actually see the questions now. So hold on, I'll pull that up. So let's see if there's anything specific. So where do I start? So one of the questions was, where do I start and what is an entry-level job? So there's a lot of places to start. There's a lot of places you can go look for jobs. Most all jobs are found online these days. So number one, LinkedIn. I would say if you're not on LinkedIn, and that's LinkedIn.com, LinkedIn, get yourself on LinkedIn and get that foundation, your resume, your profile set up on LinkedIn. There's a lot of jobs posted on LinkedIn, and you can do search queries. You can get automatic emails sent to yourself when new jobs are posted that are kind of fit within the things you're looking for and looking to do. There are other job posting websites. There's Indeed.com, there's Monster, there's tons of job websites. You can even just Google like websites to look for jobs, and you can set yourself up with job notifications. So let's say you go to Indeed.com, or Glassdoor.com also is a great resource to look at job postings. Glassdoor.com also posts reviews, so I can go and say like how I like my current employer and where I think they can improve, or I loved it, or I hate it, or whatever the case may be, and kind of rate them on a star level. So while you are interviewing for a position, you can go look them up and see what real live employees or previous employees think of working there, if they liked it or not. So Google job posting websites and set up notifications that'll get automatically emailed to your inbox. So as new jobs get posted that could fit within your criteria that you set, you'll be notified of those jobs and you can go apply. And I would also recommend, if you see a job that pops up and gets posted, especially in events, it's so competitive, as many of you probably are realizing, or as you get into applying for jobs. So make sure you apply and you're ready to rock and roll as quickly as possible, because probably 400 people will be applying over the next 2 weeks right behind you. So you want to be one of those first ones in. And the second part of that question was, what is an entry-level job? So I would say when you're getting into events, it could be something like event coordinator. You could look at catering jobs. So it could be like an event manager, could be an entry-level role, but I'd say coordinator is kind of where you want to go. Event operations, coordinator, administrative role, level to get your foot in the door in the events realm. I hope that helps. So there was another question, let's see, and I saw the other question about recording this, but QC answered. Where do I find clients and successful cases? So I don't have my own business right now. So, but I would say if you're trying to, I'm probably not the best one to answer that question, but if you're trying to find clients, I think you probably need to advertise yourself a bit, whether definitely through online and social media. You can set yourself up on Facebook if you have a business account for example. And Facebook's great because at least 4 years ago, it's probably similar, if not the same, but you could say, hey, Facebook, I'm willing to spend $250 to promote my business to this specific demographic. And you can dwindle down your Facebook campaign to exactly like the type of person you want to promote your business to. So let's say you say people who are getting married in Northeast Ohio, or people who have joined wedding resale websites. Let's say you want to get wedding clients. So then Facebook will take that and they'll start slowly spending your money and targeting that audience until the money's gone. And it's really great because you do reach the people you're trying to reach, and they'll spend your money that within the amount you have if you're starting out. And when it's gone, it's gone. So a lot of other sites do that. You can ask, another great thing you can do is maybe like competition online. So if you're starting out, you could be, if you have a Facebook page, you could put a contest on there and say, ask a question and just say whoever wins or gets the most likes will get 10 hours of free event planning service on the day of their wedding. So there's all sorts of fun things you can do to really engage your audience and kind of self-promote or promote your business, and for free. That maybe doesn't even cost you money. Social media is a hugely useful tool. So highly recommend tapping into social media for that. So let's see what the next question is here. So we have somebody who is working as an event planner for a nonprofit organization for 18 years. That's a long time and a lot of experience. They want to expand. They feel kind of boxed into this job and start their own event planning business. How do they go about edging their way into other business in the nonprofit world? So first and foremost, you have a great amount of experience, and it sounds like you're almost like probably a pro at this point with planning events for nonprofits. There's no reason why you couldn't set yourself up to start your own business now based off of the experience you have, and maybe even getting involved. Maybe you should volunteer to be on a board. You have such a great amount of experience already that perhaps at this point somebody would absolutely welcome your help, and then you'd get yourself out there, expose yourself, position yourself as that industry expert, and then it's another thing to add to your resume. Hey, I was volunteered on this board and I did this big fundraiser that made all this money. So the more, I know it's extra work that kind of you're not getting paid for quite yet, but as long as you're getting your network out there, you're showing and showcasing your skills and the things that you can do, then you're positioning yourself to getting that foundation to launch your business. So that's what I would recommend. So we have somebody who's 20 years old and they've wanted to get into event planning for a long time. How do you make it your career? So there's a lot of ways to make it your career. One of the ways is you could take some courses with QC Event School. If you don't have experience or a background in event planning, QC Event School has a lot of amazing courses and tons of great reviews online for their courses. So that content will certainly give you the backbone to be well positioned to get into an event planning role. My experience, I went to college, but I didn't study event planning. There's really no such thing as studying event planning in college and getting a bachelor's degree. So I studied PR and communication, and I did a lot of event planning internships. So that's another key thing, is internships that is important to mention. So there are internships out there. Some of them pay probably very minimal. Some might have a stipend. This is in the United States. It may not be the case in other countries. And some are volunteer. That would be more for like a hospital system or a nonprofit. But if you have the availability and as a 20-year-old, maybe you do have some extra time, absolutely get an internship and then get another internship, because that's just building your resume, your skills, and your experience, and helping you build yourself into getting that full-time role. So get the background in education. QC can help you do that. They have tons of courses available, and make sure that you try to get some internships or volunteer to get some extra experience. And probably with that said, it's a good time for me to mention, if you missed it at the beginning, QC has a Black Friday offer, and I'm giving you the sneak peek into it here. So if you enroll in QC, one of QC's foundation courses, plus one advanced course, which you'll already receive 50% off of that price, then you will receive a free specialization course for free. And on top of that, they're offering $400 off of tuition right now when new students pay in full at the time of enrollment. And you'll get that $400 off on top of the offer I already mentioned. So there's really no better time to sign yourself up and get that experience you need to dive in and start your events planning career. So from Karen, so social media is important. My concern is I am not social savvy. What would you suggest to better my social bug? Karen, I feel your pain. Again, I know it looks like I'm probably really good and outgoing and social, but I think anybody who works with me at my office would tell you I'm probably one of the quietest people there. So I have no problem doing public speeches. I have no problem getting in front of large audiences like in that capacity. But when it comes to being social, I truly struggle. So my best advice to you is to practice. Practice putting yourself out there, and practice a couple introduction kind of questions you can ask somebody if you met them. Practice just introducing yourself. Hi, I'm Karen. I really am hoping to get into the events industry. Just a couple cool things you can say about yourself, and then prepare, just ask a couple questions you've practiced to that person, because it'll help start the conversation naturally, and hopefully it will flow better for there. It's difficult to go up to somebody and just say, hi, I'm so-and-so. Nice to meet you. I get that, but you really do have to just put yourself out there, as uncomfortable as it may be. And by no means am I encouraging drinking and alcohol, but if you are 21, for me, sometimes if I have a drink, it helps kind of relax me and make me a little bit, have an easier time with being social, especially at kind of an event where that's the environment going on. So I hope that helps a little bit. So let's see what else there is. Are there any more questions that anybody could have? So we have Brittany who just asked a question. She's just beginning as an events manager for a nonprofit organization and has worked in weddings before. And it's a different ballgame. Yes, totally different ballgames. They want you to host events and do room rental. Let's see here. You have to collaborate with others who don't have much of a budget for ideas. What advice could I give on how to get started just to keep people in the venue and let them know who you are and what you have available to them? So basically, I think that sounds like you working for a venue. They don't have a lot of money to help you promote who they are and how you can help people and get more events in. And actually, I was in that boat too. I worked at a museum a few years ago, and I loved that job, but we had no money to spend on extra things. So there were a couple creative things that we did. We did host an open house for wedding planners. We had our on-site caterer. They actually donated some food, and we had just an open house and invited brides to come, and we invited local vendors. So we said, hey, chair rental company, come set up a table for free. Hey, wedding cake company, why don't you come? Free promotion for yourself. Just provide some samples of cake and just be here. So we made an event out of it. We asked for like in-kind donations of wedding cakes or maybe a nice little setup. And we had an open house and invited brides to come. So you probably could get some free pickup from local media if you had an open house like that. If you had a small budget, I would recommend pushing it, doing a little bit of an advertising campaign on social media, or maybe a print ad in the next bridal fair. But that's a nice way to do it, where you can get people to come for free, tell them they're going to get an audience of people who could buy their cakes or buy their furniture to bring them there, and have a fun little open house. And it's a lot of work, but that's one way to do it. So hopefully that helps. Any more questions? I'm going to pull up my little question bar, see if anybody had anything else to ask. If you want to comment, now's the time. But I sincerely hope that you all learned a lot from this webinar today. I love helping you guys and tutoring for QC Event School. So just know we've been there too. We all started somewhere. And I'll just tell you really quickly before we wrap up my experience getting into the events industry. And it wasn't easy. I didn't know anybody. I'm not connected super well where I live. So when I started out, of course, it was at the time that the economy wasn't doing so well. And of course, I could not find an event planning job, and I couldn't get any calls back starting out. And I already had some internship experiences under my belt that were very event focused. So I actually ended up taking a job with a PR media news release company, and I started out in customer service. And I eventually got into business development or sales with that organization. But what I did was I always kept my foot in the door with events. So I actually volunteered while I was at that company to lead their charitable giving committee. So what we would do is we hosted like 4 to 8 events over the year, throughout the year, that would help raise funds for a local nonprofit. And then we would take those funds that we raised through our events and we would donate it to that local charity or nonprofit. So that kept my foot in the door with events. And I also volunteered and did other things, went to networking events. So had I not done that, I don't think I would have landed my first actual full-time events job. So eventually, you always apply, you're always trying to put yourself out there, and you will get rejected. And you know what? we all get rejected. Don't let that get you down. Just keep trying. And so eventually I got a job as an event manager for a facility. So it was a museum in Cleveland. And there I sold the venue and I coordinated all the logistics for the events and got to plan some really incredible things for the museum and plan their annual fundraiser, which was able to tap into my creative side. So that's kind of what it took to get me in the door. So always stay involved, always put yourself out there, and you will get there. Just keep working hard. So Brittany, you're not the only one who's gone through it. I've been there, and I've been very blessed and lucky to get where I've gotten in my events career, and we've all been there. So please, I'm so excited to hear the positive feedback. Last call for questions or comments, but I hope you all learned so much. Thank you for tuning in and spending time with me today. And reach out if you need anything. QC's here for you. They're available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Even if you enroll in their courses, they're here to help you no matter what. You can call them, you can email them, you can IM them. They will be here to support you. And I will remind you all one more time about QC's Black Friday offer. If you enroll in one of their foundation courses, you will get, plus an advanced course, you'll get 50% off of the advanced course. Then you will, they'll offer $400 off of your tuition to new students who pay in full on top of that free course or offer. So just make sure you sign up soon if you want to take advantage of the Black Friday offer. There's no better time to save some money. And thank you so much. If you sign up for the corporate events course too, there's a good chance that I may be your tutor. So I'd love to see you guys on the corporate events course. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed. Bye, guys.